I must place the unions in proper pathway for people to understand.
Hello and welcome to the program. Now, the latest corruption cases against several officials of Nigeria's former ruling party, the PDP, has once again cast a spotlight on political campaign funding in Nigeria. Nigeria's Electoral Act is specifically clear on the amount of money a candidate running for political office could spend during political campaigns. For instance, the law provides that a person running for the presidency of Nigeria can only spend a maximum of 1 billion naira for electioneering campaigns. That for the governorship is 200 million naira. Now, defaulters, of course, are liable to fine or imprisonment. In the case of the presidency, the defaulter is liable to a fine of 1 million naira or 12 months in prison. And in the case of a governorship, it's either 800,000 naira or a fine now, I should say, or 9 months in prison. But is that the reality? Well, the reality is that those running for those two offices spend literally more than 20 times the prescribed amount of money in the Electoral Act. Now, in case you are in doubt, just add up all the figures the EFCC is chasing former officials of the PDP to return. Monies, of course, they used for presidential campaigns. Fact is that when the final figures are tallied on the 2015 presidential election, it will sure go down as the most expensive in Nigeria's history. In fact, even in Africa's history, because I can't imagine any African country that spends so much on its presidential elections like Nigeria. But the big question is, just where does the money go? At least from the ongoing trial of some of those who got campaign funds from incumbent president at the time, Goodluck Jonathan, we now know that over half of the monies ended up in private pockets and never used for what they were intended for. They were actually intended, I should say, in the first place. Well, to discuss the issue of campaign funding and why there's every need to restructure it in this country, I'm now being joined on the program by two gentlemen. Of course, Mr. Chima Nnaji is a lawyer and also a political analyst. He's always a guest on this program. And I also have Bolaji Ajimotokan, who, of course, he's an engineer, but he actually he's a politician, ran for office at some point, didn't get it, and he's also a political analyst. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. Let me start with you, Mr. Nnaji. I mean, you look at it today, quite a number of people are standing trial, and you look at the trial, you know, what they're actually facing in court today, basically stemming from the use of government money, basically, for political campaigns. And, you know, initially you would think in the past that when you talk about political campaigns, you'll be thinking of, you know, millions or hundreds of millions. But now we're seeing that sometimes the money runs into billions of naira. Well, yet, what the law says in this country is that, I mean, what you're required to spend, for instance, if you're running as a governor or even a president, is in the region of millions, not even billions.
Yeah, the president is allowed to spend a maximum of 1 billion naira. But all those things are on the paper. We do know that, unfortunately, however, some of the money that are being mentioned really don't go into the election. It just funds fraud. And that is why it's...
No, but the money was meant for the elections.
But it doesn't go to the election, ultimately. So it may not be determined that the elections in this country are that expensive if you deduct the corruption aspect. And in any case, there is no reason why you should use government money to fund elections.
But that has been the practice.
Ordinarily. And the laws are very clear about how to fund elections. Very strict laws, but they are observed more in their breaches. Rather unfortunately so. Because the Electoral Act is very clear about the gradation of expenses expected of various office seekers. And even the Constitution provides guidelines on how INEC is going to monitor election expenses. And even there's a prohibition against people bringing money from outside. But we see that dollar comes in and multiplies into naira and the money balloons. So the electoral process is fraught with greed and corruption. So that makes it very difficult to determine what ultimately goes into election expenses in this country. But it is exclusionary. It makes it difficult for the ordinary, hardworking, decent people who have ideas and who have passion to serve to come into the political domain, without with this intimidation, financial intimidation.
I know you also ran for a political office. You ran for the position of governor in your state. You didn't get it. But can you give us an idea of what exactly would this money be spent on anyway?
Well, if you actually talk about the real expenses coming out from you, genuinely you think you are spending for the election. Sometimes some people are extorting money from you. Those who are so close to you, ordinarily, you think because you don't know all the terrains, some of them will want you to meet this group that they make things happen in that place, and they are totally in control of that area. And they make these things happen before you. You give them money for giving drinks and settling one or two interests, okay? The day you are coming, there's dance group, there's all these groups jactitating before you and saying, in fact, that without you, even the oxygen will not flow, so to speak. That's the political balance. So now you come home thinking that you have made investment in that area, only to be to see much later that you actually 3 or 4 people pocketed the money, and then you, just like any other person who is doing burial or funeral ceremony, could have gone to procure the dance groups to do their bidding. You understand? So then, of course, there's media aspect. Some people have media consultants who are not media people. So they, get some reporters to write things or go to media houses to make 1 or 2 jingles and what have you. But the entire money does not go into the entire media budget, does not go to media. So at the end of the day, you find that the results are not produced. And the issue of Godfather, which have become a very recent development in our political development, makes it difficult for input to, like, garbage in to become garbage out. You understand? You may spend all that you want to spend, rightly so. If the Godfather does not find favor, okay, find you a favorable candidate, you go nowhere. Because he is the one that has even the instrument of violence. He has boys who are ready to do his bidding, who have been there and know that rather than deal with the man that is just going to peter out, they deal with the man that has stabilized. And he has some links with the law enforcement agencies. He has perhaps the link with some people already in government. He has the hierarchy of the party that come to kowtow to him for their own interest. So you cannot go anywhere without that. So it's difficult to determine to what extent the money you deploy for election is actually working for you for that process.
Mr. Ajimato, you contested, you ran, but you didn't get it. Now, how much of what he has said can you apply to your own situation? What, just give us a sense of what you as an individual went through.
Thank you. Well, I really respect his opinion. He's right for the most part. The reality is, the election in Nigeria is, there's so many factors that negate anybody that has a passion to serve, because it is Nigeria, because of the culture we're in. It could be because of poverty, it could be because of lack of exposure, lack of education. You realize that when you're running an election in Nigeria, right, you hardly see anybody to tell you the truth of what exactly the culture is. All they want is for you to bring money, bring money, bring money, bring money, bring money. I say you spend money like water. That is the mindset, the belief that if you're going to an office, you're going there to enrich yourself. But so before you get there, they want to make you out as much as possible. That is the mentality. Until we move away from that paradigm, that mindset, that anybody coming to represent us must be somebody that has our interests at heart. And we ourselves, the people, must be true to ourselves, that what do we really want? Do I want to enrich my pocket? So
in your own case, when you came, how were you able to raise money for your own election?
Well, some were personal funding. Some I have a campaign team that would raise funds for me, friends and family that chipping funds for me. So I was able to raise about 40–50% of my total expenses from campaign
what position
fundraising.
Were you running for?
House of Assembly. House of Assembly, Lagos House of Assembly from Agege constituency. That's what I run for in the last election.
And how much did you spend?
Primaries. I spent roughly about 30 million or thereabout. towards, for the primaries.
For just the primaries.
For just the primaries. For just, my background
now,
is
if
different.
you spend 30, 35 million for just the primaries, it means for the election proper, if you had gotten the ticket, what would have happened is probably double of that.
Because at that point, I'll be in a better advantage to get more funding, because I had a lot of promises that say, once you get the primary ticket, which is common sense too, that once you get the ticket of the primaries of the party, a lot of people now chip in that, yes, okay, you stand a good chance. Because a lot of people even see the donation to you as an investment, really thinking by the time you get there, there'll be something for them in return, which I don't agree with it, but they're not totally wrong. If you believe in somebody and you think somebody's going to get there. That's how politics is everywhere in the world. Some people get compensated because of what they did to you prior to election. That's the way it works. But looking back at the Nigerian scenario, we are not going to change. The leadership is not going to change until the people itself change. Until the people realize, majority of the people realize that you're not going to buy my votes. And they say that to you, that will curb violence, that will curb unnecessary expenses. Last election was very expensive, from presidential to gubernatorial. And as he rightly said, most of the fund was because of corruption, because they were going to meet a local leader, like see himself as a warlord. He probably don't have any influence. Maybe he was influential in the past, he's no more in the political game, but he creates this impression that, don't worry, I'm the only person you need. Once you, come to me, compensate me financially, you're going to get that. Meanwhile, he's lying to you. He probably can't do nothing for you. So that's dishonesty, corruption, greed, selfishness within the people. Right. It's one of the major bane of us finding the right people that will lead us. But it's growing, and I believe that we're going to get better. We have a decent leader, Muhammadu Buhari, and I think the culture of politics is going to change moving forward.
Mr. Naja, are you surprised that the amount of money we're seeing mentioned in some of these cases in courts now over the way government money was used for election purposes? For instance, the amount of money, for instance, that came out of the office of the former National Security Advisor, the amount of money that some individuals allegedly received, and some of them have actually confirmed receiving the money. But you just would not imagine that we could be spending that kind of money. We're not talking about the election of the entire leadership of this country. We're talking about the election of probably an individual or two.
Well, I think one of the most instructive thing, or should I say shocking thing for me as a lawyer, is the flagrant disregard of the law. Because this thing is written in black and white. Like even the Electoral Act itself, which is just a statute, the Constitution also provides against making this kind of expenses on elections. And the Electoral Act now spelled it out more lucidly. For example, in Section 90, INEC is empowered to set limit for election expenses. And going down to Section 91, where you have the president cannot spend more than 1 billion naira. 1 billion naira is big money. Oh.
It's huge.
It's big money, only that we have, our sense of arithmetic has been bastardized. So that if you are talking million now, they see you as a foolish man. You should be talking billion and trillion. Yet, some people cannot count it if it were to be an ordinary. So the issue is, when you spend 1 billion naira, if you planned your way, look at the various, you may not win in every place. So your areas of strength, where you don't need to spend so much, you don't have to. Then the area that you think is vulnerable, you go for it. We see what is happening in the American electioneering now between Trump and Hillary. So in our own case, the law is very clear. And the law says don't receive donations from anonymous sources. Sometimes now we hear that some banks were part of and the Companies and Allied Matters Act is against that specifically, that no company is expected to make donations for political purposes. And if you now have to make it to become anonymous, then you also run foul of the Electoral Act. The Electoral Act under Section 93 and Section 91 and 93, they are very clear that you don't have to receive money from anonymous sources. Everything must be fully disclosed to INEC. You understand? So, apart from violating the Companies and Allied Matters Act, which is another statute.
If indeed, for instance, like in the case of Ekiti, if indeed the Zenith Bank, say for instance, actually gave money to the governor.
The way they are mentioning that,
whether anonymously or
the
not.
court will determine that, but I'm talking in generality.
Yeah.
I'm not, because the matter is in court, so
yeah.
it's sub judice. So no company, registered company, should don't, even if it is the chairman. But we know these things happen. We even saw when the former Okereke in UK was DG of SEC. She was organizing money for Obama. And you know, American system does not, if it were in Nigeria, the money would have been collected, pocketed, and disappear. So the issue is that when we look at the money that is being bandied about, it's just like you call a dog Josephat in order to deal with it the way Josephat has to be dealt with. There has to be a heading. That is what I see in this money that was shared.
Let's look at what exactly do we need to change to make, you know, the laws for political campaign funding now work in this country. What exactly do we need to change?
Minimize impunity, you know. Try as many people as possible that are found wanting. Minimize impunity. Let the rule of law take its place. Make sure you enforce the laws. Have enough law enforcement and enough institutions to prosecute.
But in this case, the people who should enforce the laws are the people who are now, I mean, who would say are guilty of, you know.
Yeah, at least, you see,
doing this.
I think we're taking a step in the right direction. We're not going to get it right, I won't. But we're taking a step in the right direction. Now we know a lot more than we used to know. Now we know what happened in the last administration when it comes to election campaign funding. Although some people say it's still biased, they still tell to one party than the other. But hell yeah, I understand that. I agree with that. But at the same time, you know, everybody should not just go scot-free. By the time we see some few people being punished for that crime, then a lot of people in future will say, ooh, I got to watch it. I might be busted in future. So it might cut off some people that probably inherently, you know, carry out the same thing. We just have to have rule of law take its place. Like he rightly said, you know, you cannot donate to an election campaign under anonymous. You cannot donate to an election fund. You cannot be politically inclined if you are a company, registered company in Nigeria. It's against the Companies and Allied Act. It says that. But let's now see that judicial system play out and penalize any defaulting or any company or any individual that has found wanting, period. We cannot fold our hands and say, okay, I know him, oh, it's a big institution, we don't want this institution to collapse, and unknowingly tolerate corruption, because we've been tolerant of corruption for so long. That's why it's now such a big cancer in our society. By the time we punish the people that, you know, that commit this crime, then we're going to keep going forward. At the same time, as I said, it might be tilted to a party than the other, but that's understandable.
Don't you also think that something also needs to change with our political parties, that we should have real political parties where if you're a member of a political party, you should be a financially contributing member of that political party and not have a situation where the party probably belongs to a few people.
Exactly. That needs to change also. And
because I find it difficult to understand.
You know, one thing that is very important as far as I'm concerned is, you know, as long as our elites, our middle class and educated elites are shying away from politics, you know, the people left that are doing politics are going to take advantage of it. Because if you go to most political meetings now, imagine what you see there. Pretty much the people at the lower cadre of the society. You don't see our so-called elite, our so-called bankers, our so-called oil workers, our so-called telco workers. They think they're not part of it. That is the way they feel. Unfortunately, they're not going to take you from the house and say, okay, come join this party. It is going to be within the people than in the party. And as long as the people in the party, you know, have a kind of mentality that I'm in this party to take advantage of anybody running for election financially, we're still going to have that problem. I think all Nigerians, especially the middle class and people in the high cadre, should embrace politics and, you know, associate themselves with a political party. That is my opinion, really. I think that will solve the problem for the most part. Then the issue of, you know, money for vote, will be minimized. We have a lot of like minds in the political party that will say, okay, and politics is always a game of number. Minority will have their say, but majority will have their way.
And talking about money for votes, would it be right for me to say, for instance, that whatever our politicians have become, that we are actually responsible for it? That,
absolutely,
you know, this money we're talking about, this money that they spend for elections, this monies that have been stolen in the name of elections, that we make so much demands of them.
Exactly, absolutely.
And that, you know, and that's what I keep asking. What is the money used for during political campaigns? The money is actually go to the people. People make demands. So that even we too are to blame for what our politicians have turned into.
Actually, it's just like when you say chicken and egg, which one is that kind of relationship exists? Which one caused the other? But there is a long history behind the two relationships. We cannot sit down here and speculate that when these things are done, that will be right. The issue is who will do it. You understand? Because we all know the problems and we know the solution. But the issue is who will take the bull by the horn. You talked about the people who will enforce the law. The man who is enforcing the law sees an opportunity. Because we have already heard some rumors that some people are using the name of certain people in the enforcement agencies to also make those who are considered vulnerable or politically exposed. You understand what I mean? So there is always search for a lacuna for people to aggrandize, self-aggrandize. You know, that is the scenario we find ourselves. I believe in the course of time, because there's what we call historical progression. There is thesis, antithesis, and then a synthesis. That's the way nature, you know, the society progresses. We are at the level of antithesis, working against what each of them are working at crossroads. They will resolve themselves, willy-nilly. Like many people who have been in a position of authority never trusted that there will be this country after they would have finished their tenure. That's why when they stole, they send it abroad and convert it to foreign currency, so that in case our system collapses, then they would have, they already bought houses abroad, they have businesses abroad, and they have stacked in different accounts large worths of dollars and sterling in other currencies. They never believed in this country. I don't know whether you are getting my drift.
Very, very much.
And we have had many a time, some of them even said they have done so many things and the thing didn't work. And yet you are not giving way to those who could do the correct thing. And my brother, nobody who is a hardcore professional who want to dabble into politics the way Nigeria is now, unless he wants to struggle for the pittance that comes. If you are a hardcore professional, you better, because the people you say that come for that meeting are ready to kill. You understand? Human lives mean nothing to them. And those people who know that they have no credential to be there, recruit them and pay them. Nobody worth his credentials, the way things have gone so banana now, will want to put himself, unless a godfather has promised him, I'll put you there. This is frankly speaking. You understand? You cannot spend money and realize the end for which you spent it, unless you are attached. And where are you going to get that money?
That's a strong point.
Where? And even if you had money, you spend it, where do you recoup it? Because it is money down the drain. Then you come back poor. You understand what I mean? So the truth of the matter is that Nigerians who are decent, quote and unquote, decent, because they have never been exposed to public funds to know if they would have stolen, they are very qualified in their own areas of calling. They have worked hard, very, very hard throughout their life and career. You understand? They will not come close the way things are organized now. That is the truth of the matter. I disagree with you, because you have the right to do so.
But you also have an experience. You also have, you have an experience. I mean, you are a professional. You know,
what office are you running for now?
You are a professional. But what I'm saying is this: you are a professional. You came back thinking I
can make a change.
And you spent your money. Eventually, you did not get it. Do you think?
Did anybody refund you the money?
They don't have to refund me.
But let me ask you.
Choice.
Can I ask you? Do you think things might have been different if you were probably attached to one of the top political godfathers in your party?
I think so. I think so.
Exactly
I
what
think
we're
that
saying.
is. I think so. But at the same time, I think it's because we don't have enough like minds. You know, we couldn't push our way within that political
can't have
terrain.
that number.
Yes, you can.
You can.
By the time everybody sees the opportunity that this is my country for the love of the country, for the love of my society, for the love of my community. By the time the elites of the community say, yes, I'm going to take it upon myself to be a change that I want, and everybody just embrace politics, and always, if there's a pressure from a pressure group, and they're large enough in numbers in politics, they always get their way.
They
said
the time,
no,
you
no,
said
see,
by
I
the
totally
time, and
disagree-
I'm
I
telling
totally
you that
disagree with
time
the
will
notion.
never come, given the scenario we have now.
It will come. At some point, it will come. We
You
have to
still-
take our destiny into our
You're
hands.
still running.
I'm
plan to run.
I'm still considering it seriously. I mean, I'm never going to give up because it's for the love of Nigeria. If we don't have the right people in the right places, we're not going to make the right progress that we want to as a people. I'm still very much a politician. This is my passion. I want to see the country succeed, and I want to see the right people in the
But
right
the way
places.
our laws on campaign fundings, the way the laws are now, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the law.
The laws are very good. In fact, the law is Section 93, sub 3 of the Electoral Act says that no political party should receive donation from anybody that is beyond 1 million naira. But you know better.
I know better.
That in fact, one person sits down, funds the party, and dispenses patronages like he's giving biscuit to school children. And everybody will come and kowtow to him. You understand? So, and those people who are put in positions, they begin to make the returns, not to the state, but to the individual who
put them there.
Who put them there. You understand? That is why the system is fairly closed. And those people who have that power to dispense that political largesse also have the corollary power for unleashing mayhem and violence for those who decide to confront or become an affront to them. You understand? That is why there's fear among those ones who are decent. You understand? To come
I can understand.
and begin to mess themselves. At the end of the day, they will make no impact. Because it's a question of saying one thing and using their media reach to bring you down, even in your own career. Before you have a say to return fire for fire, whatever, you're already down.
But is the situation then helpless?
It's a question of time. It will not remain so forever.
Thank
you understand
you.
what I mean? That's why I said there
you.
is a historical progression. You understand? It must get so bad before it gets very well. If you are a good farmer, you will know that if you plant yam seedling, they will look as if they are rotten. They'll go completely rotten.
Yeah, that's true.
You understand? Then it sprouts something that might even be bigger and better than what you put down there. It's a progression. You understand? We started from sheer innocence when politicians could send people to beat you up and you end up in hospital. By the time you are coming back, the election will be over. But now, they kill you so that you don't even wake up again to ever consider. So, who wants to die? Unless you have the same mindset that you are going there to steal. Do you understand what I mean? Somebody told me that he did not see what he should go and clap himself to stupor in a Pentecostal church when he could go to another church and sing the hymns. No, talking literally. No, apologies to any other person. You understand what I mean? Because there must be something that you are pursuing or something is pursuing you.
Before you run
Before
for an
you run
office.
there and begin to clap yourself to stupor.
So can I say something?
Please.
In other words, I can infer that what you're trying to say is before you go into politics, there's something that is pursuing to go into politics and run for an office. Is that correct?
No, not necessarily. I said if you have to stoop so low to the level of killing or maiming people,
Then you
have a mission that you are going to be at. Because the only way to talk to a madman is to come down to his level.
If we live in a decent society, that itself is criminal, and there's no way where we can investigate such issues and bring the culprits to justice. But it looks like almost all elections, we hardly do that. And that is impunity by itself.
That is it.
I'm glad something similar is happening in River State, where I gather that somebody somewhere is in jail because of some election for a murder case. during the election period. I think I saw it on TV a couple of days ago. At least that's something, that's some progress. But at the same time, it's heavily politicized. It's going to be politicized because it was an election.
Anything that
violence.
has to do with politics and
but
election
the thing about
does
it,
not
as
follow
he
the
rightly
rule of
said,
law.
but has he rightly said that we are making progress. But the thing about it, we can't keep doing the same things all over again, the same way and expect a result. We need to inject fresh minds, passionate people. We need to.
Who will inject it?
With the people that love
Who
their
are
country
the
so
people?
much. Nigerians that like their country so much.
Jesse
I want
the
to
body
take the bull by the
Ventura,
horn.
one American wrestler
We're
then,
not even
who later
talking
became the
America.
governor of, is it California or something?
Yeah, it became
said
governor.
that he was the leader of the immoral minority, and that the immoral minority will lord it over the moral majority. What was he trying to point out? The majority is always labile. The active bad ones hold sway anywhere in any society. You understand? 3 people who have media access can say that we don't like this government. We don't like what is happening. For example, they are the ones that are heard. Those people in the village doing their normal work never said anything. You understand? So when you are talking about the people,
the people,
you talk about the people that have access to the media. How many of them? The real people who are suffering today will not be able to effectively articulate their problems.
Anyway.
Because they are beyond articulation.
I want to thank you very much for coming on the program. Unfortunately, our time is up.
No problem.
Well, our laws are not bad. I mean, the campaign funding.
One day, somebody will come who is knowledgeable, who is passionate and patriotic about this country to enforce the laws.
Why can't that be you? You're a lawyer.
If you put me there, I will do that.
You have to fight for it yourself.
But I can't go there because of the circumstance of the operation of
the enforcement of that law is very critical.
Cannot easily just jump in them.
Very critical.
Even though
it's
very
not
critical.
easy.
It's difficult.
It's doable, but it cannot be done now.
Thank you. You say it's doable.
I've never been a pessimist, but I'm an optimist with realism.
Somebody get
you
it.
Don't know that dollar will fall on your
level. Well, we'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll continue this program, and this time we'll be discussing something else. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decision.